I think that the movie Inside Out really hit the nail on the head with its concept of core memories. The moments in your life that have resonated with you the most strongly. Vivid echoes which define our past and may or may not shape our futures. Take a brief moment to think about your first memory ever, if you can. We sort of just gain sentience at a random point as kids. Skip ahead to a pleasant early childhood memory. Maybe your favorite Christmas, or any other holiday. Skip ahead to your first day of school. Skip ahead to your first love. Keep going through your most strong and meaningful memories, including the bad ones, until you get to where you are today. Are you happy with the life you've lived? Our days are numbered. They come and go in the blink of an eye. Welcome to Games for Healing, the web series where we take a look at games that get us feeling and thinking. In your eyes right now is a game called Before Your Eyes, where we see the life of a person named Benjamin Brin unfold before us. Developed by Goodbye World Games and published by Skybound Games. It released in 2021. You can pick it up on PC and mobile devices. The premise here is that our main character, Benjamin Brin, or Benny for short, has passed away. He finds himself scooped out of a dark sea onto a boat. Here he meets the ferryman, a mysterious animal-like entity. The ferryman explains that he's taking Benny to an entity called the Gatekeeper for judgment. If the Gatekeeper deems him worthy, Benny will get to go on to be a part of the Gatekeeper's paradise. If he isn't worthy, he'll be turned into a seagull, doomed to fly over the dark sea for the rest of eternity. These seagulls tend to flock on the ferryman's boat. As the shepherd of departed souls, this man has done this all before and watched many people get turned into birds. Our protagonist no longer has his old physical form and can only communicate with the ferryman through his blinks. Since this game is in first person, we never get to see what Benny looks like when he was alive, or while he's on the boat. There is a figure in this official piece of art that's definitely him though. The ferryman requests that Benny explore his memories so that the ferryman can get an idea of who he is. He'll be the one doing the talking with the Gatekeeper afterwards, pleading Benny's case for worthiness. The player gets to see and be a part of these memories, with one twist that sets this game apart from all others from a gameplay perspective. Not only will you be controlling the game with your mouse, you'll also be controlling it with your real eye blinks. Your PC's webcam or your mobile device's camera is the key here. Upon booting up the game, you'll have to go through some calibration before you can dive in. Take your time with it and make sure it's accurate. There's even an option for people who wear glasses. Despite one of the experience's selling points being the blinking, you can choose to just use the click of a mouse or the tap of a touchscreen instead. I'm glad that this is the case because this is the type of game that should be as accessible as possible. Some people might have issues with their eyes or might just want to avoid eye strain. Even though the act of blinking in real life is as simple as an input as clicking a mouse, it ends up feeling much more immersive and personal. The ferryman makes it clear that you can't stay in each memory forever, and that as soon as you blink you'll flash forward in time to another memory. You'll never know how much time will pass each time. Could be minutes, could be a day, could be years. You don't have to keep your eyes open constantly. That'd be unreasonable and your eyes would probably burn. It would just turn into a painful staring contest marathon. In each memory, you'll get to experience all of the essential dialogue and details at your own pace. It isn't until the vignette's most important information is done and the ticking metronome icon appears on screen that you'll flash forward in time when you blink. The icon will always be the indicator, so anytime it's not on screen ticking away, you can sit back and take the narrative in. If you can avoid blinking while the icon is present and it's time to move on, you can enjoy the memory for a little while longer and hear some extra dialogue. It's futile to resist because life goes on and you'll have to move forward eventually. I found it really engaging trying to stay in my favorite of Benny's memories for as long as possible, as if I would do the same with my own memories. If you're playing with clicks or touches, you won't have to worry about missing anything at all. If you wanted to, you could cheat, and you could turn your head away from the camera, or you could be a staring contest professional. Letting things happen naturally with blinks makes it feel a lot more organic and real. The game takes a simple thing that human beings apparently on average do between 14,000 to 19,000 times per day and gives it so much weight and purpose. I'm all for new ways to play video games. The medium is a vast one with incredibly untapped potential. Anything that we can do with our bodies can be or eventually will be translated into technological inputs. This leads to many unique experiences and all sorts of ways to dive into them. The real blinking isn't required, but it does add to the big picture, and I'd recommend playing it that way. If this game were playable in VR with a headset with eye tracking, that'd definitely be something worth trying. Besides for using blinks to move forward in time, you'll be using them for other actions as well, like choosing dialogue or for choosing between which action to take, or to do things like placing art on a canvas. You'll be using the mouse to move the camera around, and to perform some actions like playing a piano. The graphics in this game are simple and clean with a nice cartoony look. The characters are all fully voice acted skillfully and are played through motion capture technology. The ferryman gives an especially impressive performance. The music is well composed and often beautiful. Before Your Eyes is a very moving and emotional game. It only asks for about an hour and a half's worth of your time to teach its lessons about life and death. Parts of the game's beginning had me a bit teary-eyed, and the ending had me actually crying. I'd recommend giving it a try and avoiding spoilers so you can get the full experience yourself. I suggest playing it yourself over watching a Let's Play. Watching someone else play it just wouldn't be the same. Play it by yourself with headphones on and with no distractions to really feel it. If you have a Netflix subscription, you wouldn't have to actually buy the game, since I recently discovered that Netflix has games now. Among the selection is this game and one game previously featured in this series, that being Spiritfarer. I bought the game bundled with its soundtrack and art book on Steam. I'll be briefly discussing the plot now, so there's your warning if you want to avoid spoilers. A plot summary, no matter how long, could never do the game justice. We get to see many of Benny's memories, including the perspective of him as a baby, precious times like spending time with family, or receiving his pet cat, and the time spent with his first love, or alternatively his first friend if that's the option you chose. Benny seems to be artistically talented. We'll see him get into things like music and art. His mother has a failed music career and wishes for him to succeed where she didn't. She gives him a metronome to use while practicing piano, and that's where the imagery of the metronome icon comes from. She means well, but ultimately puts a lot of pressure on him. Every now and then we'll see ominous and blurry memories that are quickly glanced over with no details given. Benny becomes ill. His condition/disease is never specified. He recovers, then goes on to live the rest of his life and become a famous artist. At the end of his tale, he comes back into contact with his first love. She asks him if he'd like to get coffee sometime. The ferryman is impressed by the life story, but the seagulls sense something fishy. It's revealed that the seagulls are called liar birds. They were human beings that lied to the gatekeeper about their own life stories and were denied paradise. It turns out that Benny was making up everything that happened after he became ill. It was all just fantasies, the type of life he wanted to go on to live. Along the way, he also repressed his darker memories. These were the mysterious and ominous memories from before. They include memories like losing a grandparent or seeing his pet cat's kittens get eaten alive by coyotes. Benny never recovered from his illness. Death came for him at the age of 12. After the ferryman hears Benny's real life story, it's finally time to meet the gatekeeper and to be judged. I won't show footage of this scene. During it, Benny is the one being spoken about, but the words being said also feel like they're being directly spoken to the player themselves. In an unexpected way, the ending made me feel loved. There's this wonderfully optimistic and reassuring speech that reminds us that we're enough, and that we were always enough. I think it's something that everybody needs to hear. Benny lived an ordinary and short life that ended in tragedy, but he lived one where he loved and was loved. This final scene also does something new and emotionally charged with the blinking mechanic that I'll keep a secret. The gatekeeper deems our main character worthy, and we're asked to blink one final time before the credits roll. It's up to interpretation if Benny really was in the afterlife, or if the game's events all took place in his head right before death. It could be either one. Here's some of the game's symbolism that's worth giving some thought. Like I mentioned before, the metronome given to Benny by his mother is an icon that shows up when it's time to move forward in time. The structure that is the boat's destination also looks like a metronome. The boat itself looks just like the toy boat that Benny played with in the bathtub during his earliest memories. It's got that same wind-up key. The ferryman is an ambiguous animal. He could be meant to partly resemble a cat since Benny has an affinity for cats and has his own. He could be a coyote since he barks, and since Benny has that memory of his cat's kittens getting killed by coyotes, this would make a coyote resemble death to him. The ferryman could also be Anubis because one of Benny's school memories is learning about Anubis, a jackal or jackal-headed man, an ancient Egyptian god of the dead who is known for ushering souls into the afterlife, much like how the ferryman does. Before Your Eyes is a short but incredibly potent work of art that's worth your time, 100%. It teaches us that death is unforgiving and could happen to anyone at any time. It teaches us that we're enough and that we'll have mattered once our time is up. Your life, whether it be long or short, simple or extravagant, is yours and yours alone, and you surely have people that you love and people that love you. We're on this ride for a short time in the grand scheme of things, so make sure that yours is spent with the people who matter most while you do what makes you the happiest. Until next time, I'll see you later. Stay strong out there.